Today, we're digging into the intelligence brief for Saturday, August 16th, 2025. We're presenting this on Sunday, August 17th. Our mission, as always, is to give you clear, actionable insights, cutting through the noise by going deep into the source material you share with us. And the bottom line up front?
Well, it's a global picture, really dominated by extreme weather, high-stakes political talks, some major labor unrest, and new trade pacts being forged. It's certainly a dynamic time globally.
It really is. And what's interesting here, most of the reporting we're looking at comes from pretty reputable media and official sources.
Okay.
Gives us a solid base. You'll hear us mention threat levels like A2 or B3. Just quickly, A means a direct, sort of immediate impact. B points to something more indirect, maybe still evolving. And the number 2 or 3, that shows the severity. 2 is high, 3 is moderate. So an A2, high, that's a direct, very severe threat. Overall, the general assessment is moderate threat level, confidence level 4, though naturally some early figures, especially human or economic costs, are still a bit fluid. More data is coming in. Okay, got it. Let's unpack this then. We should probably start where the impact is just so obviously global and, well, getting worse. Climate-induced disasters. It really feels like Mother Nature is making her presence known, forcing us to rethink infrastructure, response systems, everything.
Absolutely. And what's really striking is the sheer scale and, the geographical spread of these events.
Yeah.
They're not just one-offs. They really highlight these deep vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure and, tragically, the rising human and economic costs. That affects you, everyone, globally.
Definitely. So kicking off in North America, Hurricane Erin. This thing strengthened into a monster category, 560-mile-per-hour winds as it passed north of Anguilla. We're seeing life-threatening warnings out for the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And the rapid intensification that's linked to warm seas, low wind shear. Very concerning.
And that's exactly why it matters, right? It's not just that the storms are stronger. This rapid intensification, fueled by those warmer oceans, means much shorter warning times. And just unprecedented stress on the infrastructure that's there. It forces you to ask, are our current plans, even after Maria in places like Puerto Rico, really enough for this faster pace of extreme weather?
That's the question.
Financially, yeah, we're talking potentially massive economic losses, tourism, infrastructure, huge hits. FEMA's already mobilizing. Insurers are bracing for much higher claims. The threat level here is A2, high.
A2 high.
Yeah. And we heard this quote from a Puerto Rican resident on X, kind of sums it up. Can't believe we're staring down another Category 5. We just rebuilt after Maria. Hope the Gevin steps up this time. You could feel the weariness, the cycle of damage and rebuilding.
Yeah, absolutely devastating. And unfortunately, this pattern isn't isolated. Across the Atlantic, Europe is grappling with its own climate shock. Widespread wildfires, fueled by heat across Spain, Greece, Turkey, Albania. Sadly, at least 3 people killed, mass evacuations needed, temperatures soaring over 40 Celsius.
40 degrees.
And Spain, specifically, facing 14 large wildfires. 7 deaths reported there, over 157,000 hectares burned. That's nearly double their annual average. And worryingly, reports say 2 arson suspects have been arrested in Galicia and Orense.
See, this highlights a dual challenge, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, climate change is absolutely amplifying the heat waves, creating these, tinderbox conditions.
Yeah.
But crucially, some fires were deliberately lit, and that just stretches the already limited firefighting resources to the absolute breaking point.
Right, a double whammy.
Exactly. The combined impact, thousands displaced, big losses in tourism, agriculture. Governments are already tapping into EU disaster funds. That shows the strain on national budgets. Threat level for Southern Europe generally is A2, high. For Spain specifically, it's B2, high. We saw a post from a Spanish firefighters union saying, "Firefighting volunteers are heroes. Spain needs more planes, not austerity." And a Greek farmer on X captured the human cost. "Why are arsonists still free? We lost our home in Patras." It's just a stark reminder that human actions, both deliberate and, well, through climate change, make these events so much worse.
It really is. Okay, before we continue, just a quick note. This deep dive is powered by NextSight. They're a global investigations and intelligence leader. Their open source OSINT platform, Site Connect, is what powers these reports and allows for deep customization. From complex international investigations to high-level corporate intelligence, their work is consistently top-notch blending speed, precision, and verified accuracy. You can learn more at www.next-site.com. All right, so moving from the power of nature, let's pivot to the geopolitical landscape. Some equally high-stakes diplomatic chess games are playing out here, moves that could reshape alliances and have, immediate impacts on people's lives.
And this raises a really critical question, doesn't it? How leaders are navigating not just current conflicts, but also future security guarantees, often with some very controversial ideas being floated.
Indeed. We're looking at that recent Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska. Reports say the former U.S. president urged Ukraine to cede parts of Donetsk for a frontline freeze. That immediately got sharp pushback from European leaders Macron, Maloney, Merz, Starmer, others. They're insisting on ironclad security guarantees for Kyiv. This isn't just about a potential deal, is it? It's about fundamental principles, sovereignty, international law.
Absolutely. What's at stake here is complex. Putin clearly wants to consolidate his territorial gains. Trump, well, from his viewpoint, wants to claim diplomatic credit for a quick fix. But the EU's united front shows a fundamental disagreement. They insist Ukraine needs real security guarantees and full sovereignty, not just a frozen conflict line.
Makes sense.
Financially, any peace terms could massively swing European gas markets, reconstruction costs, which leads to volatility in defense stocks. This situation is flagged as A3, moderate threat level. A3, moderate.
Yeah, and a U.S. policy analyst kind of captured the mood. Why is Trump bargaining away Ukrainian land? This is appeasement 101. Now, Ukrainian President Zelensky, he has agreed to meet Trump, but, crucially, he's laid down conditions. Any deal needs concrete security guarantees, sanctions for non-compliance, emphasizing, a peace deal can't just freeze the conflict without addressing sovereignty fully. That aspect is rated B2, moderate.
Okay, a clear stance from Kyiv.
Right. As a Ukrainian diaspora group put it, let Zelensky negotiate but never surrender our sovereignty. It's a clear red line for them and their European allies.
Okay, shifting focus now to the Middle East. The Gaza situation remains a major concern. Israel announced plans to relocate civilians from combat zones in Gaza City to the south before launching a new offensive. They're providing tents, shelter via the UN. The stated aim is reducing civilian casualties. This remains an A3 threat level.
High.
And while Israel is pledging humanitarian aid for this relocation, the grim reality is the reconstruction of destroyed areas will be incredibly costly, a huge long-term burden. We heard from a Palestinian-American activist asking poignantly, "My cousins in Gaza have nowhere to go. Tents won't stop bombs."
Such a difficult situation.
And in a related development, showing how conflict and policy connect, the U.S. State Department halted visitor visas for Gaza residents, pending a review. This followed claims on far-right social media about Palestinian refugees entering the U.S. So, clearly driven by political pressure, heightened border security scrutiny in the U.S.
Right.
Financially, the direct impact is probably small, but it could affect remittances to families in Gaza. That's flagged as B3. Low. Though a lawyer on X raised a sharp comparison, how can the U.S. freeze visas for Gavans while giving them to Russians? Food for thought there.
Yeah, definitely raises questions. Okay, so moving on. Here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Beyond the immediate crises and the diplomatic maneuvering, we're seeing some pretty significant economic realignments and domestic pressures building up around the world. Hints of deeper structural shifts, maybe.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, these shifts in trade and labor relations, they aren't just isolated blips. They seem to reflect broader global responses, don't they, to rising protectionism, the need for new growth engines, and that underlying fragility in supply chains we keep seeing. It's a complex dance, really, between national interests and global interconnectedness.
That interconnectedness is so clear in the first economic pressure point, the Air Canada flight attendant strike in North America. Canada's government had to step in, ordering Air Canada and the union into binding arbitration. Why? Because the strike grounded hundreds of flights, affecting about 130,000 passengers. They invoked Section 107 of the Labor Code that tells you how serious it was.
Yeah, the core issue was pay and unpaid ground duties for the flight attendants. The government intervened fast to minimize the economic disruption. It just underscores how fragile global travel is and the direct impact it has on everyday people.
Absolutely. This wasn't minor, right? Air Canada offered a 38% pay increase.
That's right, a big offer. But the strike still risked losses of about $10 million per day. Huge numbers. Arbitration aims to contain those costs, but the ripple effect was instant. This is a B2 threat level, moderate. And you saw the frustration online. A traveler on Facebook wrote, "I'm stuck at Pearson Airport with my kids, and no one from Air Canada is telling us anything. Total chaos." It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? Labor relations in one company can have national economic fallout.
Definitely. Okay, let's look at some significant trade shifts now, particularly involving Latin America. We're seeing Brazil and Canada actively trying to revive Mercosur trade talks. Brazil announced Canada's sending a delegation on August 25th to restart those stalled free trade negotiations. The clear goal: sign an agreement, especially with all the global tariff tensions flying around.
Seems like a direct response to protectionist policies elsewhere.
Right.
Canada's looking for alternative markets. Brazil wants to boost its exports.
Exactly.
And it's a potentially smart move for both. Bilateral trade was already U.S. $9.1 billion in 2024. An agreement could boost that by maybe 20%. Significant potential there. That's flagged as B2, low. A Brazilian exporter summed up the feeling Mercosur should stop procrastinating. Canada is ready to sign.
Right, there's an urgency. Also in Latin America, the UN's ECLA, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, they're urging trade diversification, this makes sense, but also, interestingly, investment in elder care. They warned U.S. tariffs could cost the region 0.4% of GDP. So they're encouraging new trade partners and this big push for 4.7% of GDP investment in elder care services. They project that could create 31 million jobs.
Wow, 31 million jobs. That's huge. The long-term strategic play, isn't it? Addressing aging populations, driving inclusive growth.
Yeah, the proposed investment is massive, maybe U.S. $150 billion a year. And trade diversification could certainly bring in more foreign direct investment. That's another B2 low threat level.
A Chilean economist put it quite compellingly. Elder care could be our new oil job creation and dignity for our elders. It's a really interesting perspective.
It really is. And still in Latin America, Brazil's President Lula made a strong statement, welcoming foreign investors, but also directly criticizing those 50% U.S. tariffs on Chinese EVs. He did this at the opening of a new Great Wall motor plant in Bahia. That plant alone is pretty significant. 50,000 hybrid vehicles a year, 2,000 jobs.
That's a very clear strategic move by Brazil, positioning itself as an EV manufacturing hub, diversifying away from maybe traditional dependencies. And Brazil's auto exports are already projected to jump 38.4% in 2025. Another B2, low flag. A Brazilian car blogger echoed this sentiment. Lula is right, U.S. tariffs are nonsense. Welcome GWM to Bahia.
Okay, shifting gears to Oceania Pacific. A big agreement signed there. Australia and Vanuatu. The $500 million NACAMAL agreement. It's comprehensive security, economics, trade, labor mobility, climate resilience projects.
This really signals deeper ties, doesn't it? Especially with China's growing influence in the region. It strengthens specific partnerships, acts as a counterbalance. And importantly, it directly helps Vanuatu recover from that December earthquake. The funds boost construction, services, better labor mobility means more remittances. That's an A2, low threat level. And a Vanuatu student summed it up nicely. Welcome, NACAMAL agreement. Jobs for Native Vanuatu and better roads. Positive stuff.
Definitely. Okay, just another quick reminder as you listen. NextSite's capabilities go way beyond just reporting. Their OSINT specialists and investigative teams connect the dots across borders, verify sources, and turn scattered data into actionable strategies for their clients. All right, so beyond those major themes, let's quickly touch on some other regional headlines that caught our eye. Lots happening.
Indeed. The climate impact thread continues. In Europe, Stockholm is urging water conservation. Lake Mälaren's record-high temperatures are threatening drinking water. July was Sweden's warmest in a century. That's B2 moderate. A resident there complained, Stockholm's water tastes like algae. Never thought I'd see water restrictions in Sweden.
Wow, even Sweden. Okay, in Asia.
Tropical storm Podol drenched southern China, Hong Kong, injured 143 in Taiwan, caused about 20% flight cancellations, school closures, B2 moderate again.
China allocated 430 million yuan for relief there. We saw a post from Hong Kong. Rain nonstop for 2 days. Schools closed. Flights canceled. Podul is wreaking havoc. And still in Asia, devastating monsoon floods. Pakistan and Indian Kashmir. Intense rains killed at least 321 in northwest Pakistan, cutting off communities.
And tragic cloudbursts in Indian-administered Kashmir killed at least 60 pilgrims. Over 200 missing. Emergency funds are out, but rebuilding costs hundreds of millions, easily. These are high threat levels. A2 for Pakistan, B2 for Kashmir. The human stories are heartbreaking. A Pakistan survivor, it feels like the end of the world. The mountain shook and we lost everything. And a relative of a Kashmir pilgrim. Our pilgrimage turned into a tragedy. We need better early warning systems.
Just awful. Okay, turning to security and political flashpoints. Africa.
Mali. A French embassy employee and 2 generals arrested, charged with plotting an attack. France condemned it, citing diplomatic immunity. This could really impact French aid, EU funding. Risk of sanctions there. B3 moderate, a West African journalist tweeted, Mali's junta arrests diplomats like gangsters. How long will ECOWAS stay silent?
And in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Something with the Solomon Islands.
Yeah. They decided not to invite key dialogue partners, U.S., China, Taiwan, included to the upcoming Pacific Islands Forum, citing incomplete reviews, but also apparent Chinese pressure seems to be a factor. This could jeopardize aid and investment from those excluded nations, and potentially boost China's economic influence. That's B3, moderate. A Fijian academic warned online. Solomon's snubbing partners. Beijing's grip is tightening.
Interesting dynamics there. Okay, back to economics briefly. South Africa.
Reviewing steel tariffs affects 600 codes. The industry's facing pressure from cheap imports, energy problems, logistics. Producers are even threatening shutdowns. Tariff changes could hit profit margins, potentially cost jobs. That's B3 low. We saw a post from a steel worker. Our steel industry is dying. Cheap imports and load shedding are killing jobs.
Tough situation. But some better news for South Africa.
Yes, gold prices are helping the rand. It strengthened to about 17.58 per US dollar. Gold rose ahead of inflation data. A stronger rand helps with import costs, influences interest rates. That's a C2 low. A currency trader wrote, rand finally above 17.5 thanks to gold. Hope inflation doesn't ruin it.
Okay. And a quite unique note from Ocean Pacific.
Yeah, the Marshall Islands made their international football debut, played their first ever match, lost 4-0, but it's a huge step towards FIFA membership, big national pride boost, costs covered by sponsors, might even boost tourism a bit. C3 low. A fan wrote, we lost 4-0, but we made history. Next time we'll score. Great spirit.
Love that. Okay, one last one.
La Niña watch triggered for Eastern Australia. Cold, wet conditions expected late 2025. Heavy rain, snow. Quite a reversal from last year's record heat. Potential gains for agriculture from rain, but also flood risks. Tourism might benefit from early snow. That's B2 low. An Aussie ski resort owner posted, bring on the snow. After last year's heat, we're ready for a proper winter.
Okay, so quite a sweep there. When we put all of this together, what does it really mean? It's clearly more than just a random collection of headlines, isn't it? Feels like there are some powerful undercurrents connecting these seemingly separate events.
That's the key question, isn't it? How do these things actually connect and influence each other? And what's really compelling is seeing the ripple effects across totally different sectors. For instance, you see a clear link between that cluster of extreme weather events, the hurricanes, wildfires, floods we talk about, and their immediate punch on commodity markets. It's already lifted futures for things like wheat and soybeans, fears of crop losses.
Right. Obvious connection there.
And at the same time, insurance stocks dipped. They're expecting higher claims. But then gold prices went up, boosting the South African rand, remember, as investors looked for safe havens amid all the disaster uncertainty.
That makes perfect sense. The layered financial reactions are clear. And it's not just climate, is it? We also see how sensitive energy prices are to those high-stakes political talks, like the Trump-Putin discussions.
Right.
They triggered instant speculation about a ceasefire, which could ease pressure on European gas prices.
Could, exactly. But Europe's strong stance on security guarantees for Kyiv, that signals long negotiations ahead, which keeps energy markets volatile. Traders are constantly weighing supply disruption risks against possible sanctions relief. It's a real tightrope walk, like you said, between diplomacy and market stability.
Yeah, definitely.
And then look at the trend of trade diversification, reshaping supply chains. Latin America trying to reduce dependence on the U.S., Canada, re-engaging with Mercosur. It clearly points towards a reordering, maybe, of trade flows in the hemisphere, and regionally, too. The Australia-Vanuatu Pact shows similar diversification in the Pacific. It feels like nations are actively seeking new partners, hedging against geopolitical shocks.
And an interesting side effect.
Well, logistics firms could actually benefit from expanded labor mobility schemes in these new agreements, so new opportunities emerging from these shifts.
Interesting. And finally, that labor unrest connection to tourism impacts. The Air Canada strike really drove that home, how labor disputes, even if resolved fast, can cascade through supply chains, tourism economies. Hotels, car rentals reported cancellations straight away. Airline stocks dropped before arbitration was even announced.
Right. It really highlights the need, doesn't it, for proactive contingency planning, diversified transport options for businesses and, frankly, for travelers, too.
Absolutely. So, okay, bringing it all together for our listeners, what are the actionable insights? How can people use this information?
Well, knowledge is always most valuable when you can understand it and apply it right. So from this brief, several priorities seem to emerge for anyone needing to make informed decisions in this complex landscape. First, strengthen climate resilience investments. That means allocating capital, early warning systems, flood defenses, wildfire management in those high-risk regions, ideally partnering with local governments, insurers.
Okay, practical steps. What's second?
Second, engage diplomatically on the Ukraine peace talks. Keep dialogue open with U.S. and EU counterparts. Ensure any settlement really preserves Ukrainian sovereignty, aligns with international law, And, crucially, prepare your organizations for continued market volatility, pretty much regardless of the outcome.
Got it. Prepare for bumps. Third,
Third, really take a hard look at your trade strategies. Diversify supply chains. Actively explore new trade agreements. Look at opportunities in Mercosur, the Pacific, African markets. Hedge against those U.S.-China tensions. And that means giving resources to your logistics and legal teams to navigate these new rules proactively.
makes sense. Be proactive. Fourth,
Fourth, enhance your labor relations contingency planning. Have protocols ready for rapid response to strikes, especially in critical sectors like aviation, transport. That includes solid customer communication plans and having alternative logistics partners lined up.
good planning. And finally, fifth,
And finally, number 5, closely monitor those political risks in Africa and the Pacific. Track developments in places like Mali, the Solomon Islands, other regions where external actors are gaining influence. Why? To anticipate sanctions, shifts in aid flows, and also maybe spot emerging investment opportunities.
excellent. Thank you. That concludes the Saturday, August 16th, 2025 Intelligence Brief, brought to you here on the Sunday, August 17th edition of The Deep Dive. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and Spotify, share your thoughts, like, comment, spread the word. Your engagement really helps us keep doing these deep dives for you.
And as we think about all these global dynamics, the escalating climate impacts, the shifting alliances, the economic resets, it kind of invites a bigger question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Beyond the daily headlines. Are we collectively moving towards a world that's more fragmented or maybe more resilient? And maybe ask yourself, what role do you see yourself playing in understanding and maybe even shaping that future?
A powerful thought to end on. Stay informed, stay sharp, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.